Ford has built some of the most legendary cars in American history. The Mustang, the GT40, the F-150. But what you don't know is that locked away in Ford's secret vaults are 10 cars so incredible, so ahead of their time, that Ford was too chicken to actually build them. These aren't your typical concept cars gathering dust at auto shows. These are fully functional beasts that could have rewritten automotive history. Look, we all know Ford as the company that gave us the Mustang, dominated Le Mans with the GT40, and basically invented the modern pickup truck. But what most people don't realize is that Ford has a secret history of building absolutely mind-blowing cars that never made it to your local dealership. We're talking about machines so advanced, so powerful, so revolutionary, that Ford's own executives got cold feet and pulled the plug. Today, we're diving deep into Ford's vault of forbidden fruit. 10 legendary cars that could have changed everything, but were deemed too dangerous, too expensive, or too ahead of their time for the American public. From mid-engine Mustangs to 720 horsepower supercars, these are the cars Ford never dared to release. Before we dive into these incredible machines, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you're going to want to see what other legendary cars the big manufacturers have been hiding from us. We've got some serious automotive secrets coming your way, and you don't want to miss a single one. Now, let's get into the good stuff. Number 10, Ford Mustang Mach 2, the mid-engine revolution that never was. Let's kick things off with what might be the biggest what-if in Mustang history. Back in 1967, when the original Mustang was still fresh and selling like hotcakes, Ford's advanced design team was already thinking about the future. And that future looked nothing like the front-engine pony car America had fallen in love with. The Mustang Mach 2 was Ford's answer to the Corvette, but with a twist that would have blown everyone's minds. The engine was mounted behind the driver, just like the legendary GT40. This wasn't some half-baked concept either. Ford built 2 fully functional prototypes that actually ran and drove. Picture this: a sleek, low-slung sports car with Mustang DNA but GT40 performance. The design team, led by Eugene Bourdonnat, created something that looked like it came from the future. The front end resembled a Corvette, while the rear combined elements of the GT40 and the Lola T70. It was aggressive, purposeful, and absolutely stunning. Under that fiberglass body sat a 289 cubic inch V8 mated to a 4-speed transaxle. The whole package weighed significantly less than a regular Mustang, which meant this thing could have been a rocket ship on wheels. Ford even had plans to offer a Boss 429 big block version that would have made over 400 horsepower. In 1969, that was supercar territory. But here's where it gets interesting. Ford didn't just build these cars to look pretty at auto shows. They actually tested them extensively, and the results were mixed. The handling was good, but the cars suffered from excessive body roll at high speeds, leading to significant understeer. The chassis wasn't strong enough to handle the loads, causing distortion under hard driving. Ford tried to fix these issues with an improved version for 1969 production, even contracting A.O. Smith Corporation in Michigan to build the bodies. But by then, the writing was on the wall. The mid-engine layout would have made production too expensive, and Ford executives weren't convinced it would sell enough units to justify the investment, so they killed it. Just like that, Ford walked away from what could have been America's first true mid-engine sports car, beating the Corvette to that milestone by decades. Those 2 prototypes? Ford destroyed them, erasing almost all evidence of this incredible machine. Number 9, Ford Torino King Cobra, the NASCAR warrior that got banned before it raced. Now, let's talk about a car that was so good at what it did, NASCAR had to change the rules to stop it. The 1970 Ford Torino King Cobra wasn't just another muscle car. It was Ford's secret weapon designed to dominate the high-speed ovals of NASCAR. See, by 1970, Chrysler was kicking Ford's ass on the NASCAR tracks with their winged warriors, the Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird. These cars were purpose-built for speed, with massive rear wings and nose cones that sliced through the air like nothing else on the track. Ford needed an answer, and they needed it fast. Enter the Torino King Cobra. Ford took their already successful Torino platform and gave it the full aerodynamic treatment. We're talking about a nose cone that made the car look like a jet fighter, a massive rear wing that towered over the trunk, and side window plugs that turned the car into a wind-cheating missile. The King Cobra was based on the Torino Cobra, which already packed serious heat with its 429 Cobra jet engine. But this wasn't about engine power. This was about aerodynamics and top-end speed. Ford's wind tunnel testing showed that the King Cobra could achieve speeds that would make the Dodge Daytona look slow. But here's the kicker. NASCAR saw what Ford was planning and immediately changed the rules. They implemented new regulations that effectively banned the extreme aerodynamic modifications that made the King Cobra so special. Just like that, Ford's secret weapon was neutered before it ever turned a wheel in anger. Ford built a handful of prototypes and even had plans for a limited production run to meet NASCAR's homologation requirements. But with the rule changes, there was no point. The King Cobra died on the drawing board, taking with it what could have been one of the most dominant NASCAR machines ever built. Number 8. Ford Mustang Boss 429 mid-engine prototype. When Ford went completely insane. You think the Mach 2 was wild? Well, Ford wasn't done experimenting with mid-engine Mustangs. In 1971, they built something so absolutely bonkers that it makes every other concept car look tame by comparison. A mid-engine Mustang with a Boss 429 engine. Let that sink in for a minute. Ford took their most powerful production engine, the legendary Boss 429, that was making over 375 horsepower in street trim and could be tuned to well over 500, and stuck it behind the driver in a Mustang body. This wasn't just pushing the envelope. This was setting the envelope on fire and dancing on the ashes. The Boss 429 was already a monster in the front-engine Mustangs, but those cars were heavy and had traction issues. Put that same engine in a mid-engine configuration with better weight distribution, and you've got a recipe for absolute mayhem. We're talking about a car that could have given the Lamborghini Miura nightmares. Ford's engineers knew they were playing with fire. The Boss 429 was a race-bred engine that barely fit in the regular Mustang's engine bay. They had to modify the shock towers just to squeeze it in. Putting it behind the driver meant completely redesigning the car's structure and cooling systems. The prototype that Ford built was more of a proof of concept than a finished product, but it proved that the idea could work. The engine fit, the car ran, and by all accounts, it was absolutely terrifying to drive. This was raw, unfiltered American muscle in its purest form. But Ford's executives took one look at this beast and realized they'd created something that could kill their customers. The liability issues alone would have been astronomical. Plus, the cost of engineering a mid-engine platform around the Boss 429 would have made the car prohibitively expensive. So they buried it. The prototype disappeared into Ford's archives, and the project was never spoken of again. It remains one of the most extreme what-if cars in Ford's history, a mid-engine American supercar that could have changed everything. Number 7. Ford GT90, the 720 horsepower beast that made McLaren nervous. Now, we're getting to the big guns. The Ford GT90 wasn't just a concept car. It was Ford's declaration of war against every supercar manufacturer in the world. Unveiled in 1995, this was Ford saying, "You think your McLaren F1 is fast? Hold my beer." The GT90 was built to be the fastest road car in the world, period. While the McLaren F1 was making headlines with its 627 horsepower and 231 miles per hour top speed, Ford showed up with a quad-turbocharged V12 making 720 horsepower. That's right, 4 turbos force-feeding a 5.9-liter V12 that sounded like the apocalypse when it fired up. This wasn't some pie-in-the-sky concept either. Ford built a fully functional prototype using the chassis and suspension from the Jaguar XJ220. The body was pure science fiction, angular, aggressive, and looking like something James Cameron would design for a Terminator movie. It was wider, lower, and meaner than anything else on the road. The performance numbers were absolutely insane for 1995. Ford claimed the GT90 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 3.1 seconds and reach a top speed of 235 miles per hour. To put that in perspective, that was faster than anything Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Porsche was making at the time. This was American engineering giving the finger to European exotica. But here's where it gets really interesting. Ford actually had the technology to make this thing work. The quad-turbo setup wasn't just for show. It was a sophisticated system that could deliver massive power while still being somewhat manageable. The car even had innovative features like sensors that would detect overtaking cars and warn the driver with lights in the mirrors. So why didn't Ford build it? Simple. They got scared. Senior Ford management looked at the development costs, the insurance implications, and the potential liability issues, and pulled the plug. They were worried about creating a car that was too fast for public roads, too expensive for most buyers, and too dangerous for Ford's reputation. Jeremy Clarkson drove the prototype for Top Gear and called it the cleverest, most exciting car ever. But Ford's bean counters didn't care about excitement. They cared about profit margins and safety ratings. The GT90 died in committee, taking with it America's best shot at building the world's fastest car. Number 6. Ford Indigo, the Indy car for the street. While Ford was busy scaring themselves with the GT90, they were also working on something completely different, but equally insane: the Ford Indigo. This wasn't just inspired by racing. It was basically an Indy car with license plates. The Indigo came about after Jacques Villeneuve won the Indy 500 in a Reynard Ford, and Ford decided they wanted to capitalize on that success. But instead of just slapping some Indy 500 stickers on a Mustang, they went completely overboard and built what was essentially a street-legal race car. Picture this: a car so low you needed a stepladder to get in, with no roof, no doors in the traditional sense, and a 6.0-liter V12 sitting right behind your head. The Indigo made 435 horsepower in street trim, but Ford claimed the race-spec engine could make over 500. This thing could hit 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds and top out at 180 miles per hour. The design was pure function over form. The front end featured a bizarre aerofoil that not only provided downforce, but also housed the headlights. The main lighting was actually in the mirrors, because the aerofoil lights were too directional for street use. It looked like nothing else on the road. Part race car, part spaceship, all insane. Ford worked with Reynard, the same company that built Villeneuve's Indy car, to develop the Indigo's aerodynamics and suspension. This wasn't some styling exercise, it was a serious attempt to bring Indy car technology to the street. The chassis was designed to handle massive loads. The suspension was pure race car, and the whole package was built to go fast and look good doing it. But Ford's marketing department took one look at this thing and realized they had a problem. Who exactly was going to buy a car with no weather protection, no storage space, and a seating position that required you to be a contortionist? The Indigo was too extreme for the street and not extreme enough for the track. Ford built 3 prototypes, 1 fully functional development car and 2 show cars. The development car was extensively tested at Silverstone and proved that the concept worked. But by the time testing was complete, Ford had already decided the Indigo was too niche to justify production. The project died quietly, and the prototypes were sold off to private collectors. Ford missed their chance to build America's answer to the McLaren F1, and we missed our chance to see Indy car technology on public roads. Number 5. Ford Shelby GR1, the modern Cobra that almost was. Now, let's talk about a car that had everything going for it: legendary designer, proven platform, and enough demand to justify production. The Ford Shelby GR1 should have been a slam dunk, but Ford managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Unveiled in 2005, the GR1 was Ford's attempt to recapture the magic of the original Shelby Cobra. But this wasn't some retro pastiche. This was a modern interpretation of what Carroll Shelby's vision would look like in the 21st century. And man, was it gorgeous. The GR1 took the classic Cobra proportions: long hood, short deck, aggressive stance, and wrapped them in contemporary aluminum bodywork that looked like it was carved from a single block of metal. The front end was pure aggression, with a massive grille opening that could swallow small cars whole. The side exhausts weren't just for show. They were functional pieces that gave the car a soundtrack worthy of its heritage. Under that stunning aluminum skin sat Ford's 6.4-liter V10 engine from the GT, making over 600 horsepower. This wasn't just a pretty face. The GR1 had the performance to back up its looks. Ford claimed it could hit 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds and reach speeds well north of 180 miles per hour. That's serious supercar territory. But here's what made the GR1 special. It wasn't just a concept car. Ford actually had plans to put this thing into limited production. They partnered with Superformance, a company known for building high-quality Cobra replicas, to handle manufacturing. The plan was to build around 100 cars per year, making it exclusive but not impossible to own. The automotive press went absolutely nuts for the GR1. Every magazine that drove it came away raving about the experience. The combination of modern performance with classic Cobra DNA was intoxicating. Orders started pouring in from collectors and enthusiasts who were willing to pay the projected $250,000 price tag. So what went wrong? Politics, plain and simple. Ford was going through massive restructuring under Alan Mulally, and anything that wasn't core to the company's survival got axed. The GR1, despite having a clear path to production and eager customers, was deemed too risky for a company fighting for its life. the project got shelved indefinitely, and those eager customers were left hanging. Superformance still holds the rights to build the GR1 and claims they'll start production once certain regulatory hurdles are cleared, but that was over 15 years ago. The GR1 remains one of Ford's most beautiful missed opportunities. Number 4. Ford RS200 Evolution, the 600 horsepower rally monster. Here's a car that was so good at what it did, it scared the entire motorsports world. The Ford RS200 Evolution wasn't just fast, it was dangerously, stupidly, magnificently fast. And Ford built it right at the peak of rally racing's most insane era. The original RS200 was already a beast. Built for Group B rallying, it packed a turbocharged 1.8-liter engine, making 250 horsepower in street trim and around 500 in race spec. But Ford wasn't satisfied with just being competitive. They wanted to dominate. So they created the Evolution. The RS200 Evolution took everything that made the original special and turned it up to 11. The engine was bored out to 2.1 liters and fitted with a more aggressive turbo system. The result? 600 horsepower in a car that weighed less than 2,600 pounds. That's a power-to-weight ratio that would make modern supercars weep. Only 24 Evolution models were ever built, making them rarer than most Ferraris. These weren't just track toys either. They were street legal, which meant you could theoretically drive one to the grocery store. Of course, you'd probably arrive at the grocery store in about half the time it would take in any other car. The Evolution featured a sophisticated all-wheel drive system that could put all that power to the ground effectively. The suspension was pure rally car. Stiff, responsive, and designed to handle jumps and high-speed cornering that would destroy lesser machines. The bodywork was functional art, with every vent and spoiler serving a purpose. But here's the thing about the RS200 Evolution. It was almost too good. Group B rallying was already getting out of hand, with cars becoming so fast and powerful that they were killing drivers and spectators. The Evolution represented the absolute peak of this madness. A car so extreme that it helped convince the FYA to ban the entire Group B category. Ford had plans to use the Evolution in the 1987 rally season, but Group B was canceled at the end of 1986. Suddenly, Ford had 24 of the most extreme rally cars ever built with nowhere to race them. They sold them to private collectors, where they became some of the most sought-after performance cars in the world. Today, an RS200 Evolution can sell for over $500,000, assuming you can find one for sale. They represent the absolute pinnacle of 1980s performance technology, a time when engineers were given unlimited budgets and told to build the fastest cars possible. Consequences be damned. Number 3. Ford GTX1 Roadster, the GT40 that could transform. Now here's something completely different, a Ford GT that could change its personality at will. The GTX1 Roadster wasn't just a convertible version of Ford's supercar. It was a shape-shifting machine that could be 3 different cars depending on your mood. Built in 2005 by West Coast Customs in partnership with Ford, the GTX1 took the already incredible Ford GT and made it even more versatile. The key innovation was a 4-panel roof system that allowed the car to transform from a closed coupe to a T-top to a full roadster. It was like having 3 supercars in one. The engineering behind this transformation was genuinely impressive. Each of the 4 roof panels could be removed and stored inside the car, so you didn't need a garage to go topless. The panels were body-colored and fitted perfectly, maintaining the GT's sleek lines in coupe mode, while offering the wind-in-your-hair experience when removed. But West Coast Customs didn't stop at just making it convertible. They completely redesigned the rear end with buttresses that swept back like a Porsche Carrera GT, giving the car a more dramatic profile. Between the buttresses was a flattened rear deck with a clear glass screen that kept a supercharged V8 on display. There was even a vertical glass screen that could be electronically raised and lowered for additional cockpit ventilation. The GTX1 wasn't just about looks either. It retained all the performance of the standard GT. That supercharged 5.4-liter V8, making 550 horsepower, the Ricardo 6-speed manual transmission, and the ability to hit 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. But now, you could experience all that performance with the top down, hearing every note of that supercharged V8 symphony. Ford officially offered the GTX1 conversion through their dealer network at a 15% premium over the standard GT. They expected to convert 3 to 4 cars per week for 6 to 12 months. The plan was solid. The execution was flawless, and the demand was there. But then reality hit. The GTX1 conversion added 50 kilograms to the car's weight due to the necessary chassis reinforcements. More importantly, removing the roof compromised the GT's structural rigidity, which affected handling and performance. The car was still fast, but it wasn't quite the precision instrument that the standard GT was. Ford discontinued the GTX1 program when GT production ended in September 2006, though West Coast Customs continued doing conversions for a year or two after. In total, only 30 to 40 GTs received the GTX1 treatment, making them incredibly rare today. The GTX1 represents Ford's willingness to experiment with their halo car, but also shows how even small changes can have big consequences. It was a brilliant concept that worked in practice, but the compromises required made it less than perfect. Still, for those lucky enough to own one, they have a piece of Ford history that's truly unique. Number 2. Ford Interceptor concept. The muscle sedan that should have killed the Charger. Here's one that really stings. A car that could have given Dodge's Charger a run for its money, but got killed by bad timing and corporate politics. The 2007 Ford Interceptor concept was everything American muscle sedan fans wanted, but Ford was too scared to build it. The Interceptor was Ford's answer to the Dodge Charger's success. While Chrysler was making bank-selling retro-styled muscle sedans, Ford was stuck with the aging Crown Victoria, and nothing to compete in the performance sedan market. The Interceptor was supposed to change all that. This wasn't some half-hearted effort either. The Interceptor was a fully functional concept, built on a rear-wheel drive platform with serious performance credentials. Under the hood sat a 5.0-liter V8 tuned to make 400 horsepower, enough to give the Charger RT a serious fight. The styling was aggressive but refined, with a long hood, short deck proportions that screamed American muscle. The interior was pure business, retro-inspired but modern, with all the technology you'd expect from a contemporary Ford. The Interceptor had the look of a car that could serve double duty as a family hauler and weekend warrior. It was exactly what the market was asking for. Ford showed the Interceptor at the 2007 North American International Auto Show, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. Automotive journalists loved it, enthusiasts begged Ford to build it, and even law enforcement agencies expressed interest in a police version. Everything was lining up perfectly for production. But then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit Ford hard, and suddenly every project that wasn't absolutely essential got the axe. The Interceptor, despite its promise and positive reception, was deemed too risky for a company fighting for survival. Ford needed to focus on fuel-efficient cars and trucks, not muscle sedans. The decision to kill the Interceptor was particularly painful, because Ford took some of its design cues and used them on the 2010 Taurus. But the Taurus was front-wheel drive and lacked the Interceptor's performance focus. It was like taking a thoroughbred racehorse and turning it into a plow horse. Meanwhile, Dodge continued selling Chargers by the thousands, proving there was definitely a market for American muscle sedans. Ford missed their chance to compete in that space, and they're still paying for it today. The Interceptor could have been Ford's Charger killer, but instead it became another what if in Ford's history. Number 1. Ford Mustang Giugiaro concept, when Italian style met American muscle. And finally, we come to the most controversial car on our list, a Mustang designed by Italians that was so beautiful and so advanced, it could have redefined what American muscle cars could be. The 2006 Ford Mustang Giugiaro concept was Ford's boldest experiment and their biggest missed opportunity. Ford commissioned Giugiaro, the legendary Italian design house responsible for cars like the Lamborghini Miura and DeLorean DMC-12, to reimagine the Mustang. The brief was simple: take American muscle and give it European sophistication. What they created was absolutely stunning. The Giugiaro concept kept the Mustang's essential proportions, but refined every line and surface. The front end was more aggressive than the production car, with a larger grille and more purposeful air intakes. The side profile was pure elegance, with flowing lines that made the standard Mustang look clunky by comparison. And those scissor doors? Pure Italian drama. But this wasn't just a pretty face. Under the hood sat a supercharged 4.6-liter V8, making around 500 horsepower, backed by Ford racing performance parts throughout. The suspension was lowered and tuned for better handling, while the interior featured rich materials and a level of craftsmanship that put the production Mustang to shame. The most striking feature was the glass roof that stretched from the windshield all the way to the tail. It was made from UVA deflecting crystal and created an incredibly airy cabin that made the car feel more spacious than it actually was. Combined with the scissor doors, entering the Giugiaro concept felt like stepping into a spaceship. Ford showed the concept at the 2007 Los Angeles Auto Show, and it stopped traffic. This was American muscle with Italian sophistication, combining the best of both worlds. The automotive press went crazy for it, calling it the most beautiful Mustang ever created. Enthusiasts begged Ford to build it, even if it meant paying a premium price. But Ford looked at the Giugiaro concept and saw problems instead of opportunities. The scissor doors would be expensive to engineer and potentially problematic in crashes. The glass roof would be a nightmare for rollover protection. The sophisticated interior would drive costs through the roof. Instead of seeing a halo car that could elevate the entire Mustang brand, they saw liability issues and manufacturing headaches. So they killed it. The Giugiaro concept remained a one-off, a tantalizing glimpse of what the Mustang could have become with proper investment and vision. Ford took the safe route with the production Mustang, building competent but uninspiring cars while their Italian concept gathered dust. The Giugiaro concept represents everything that's frustrating about Ford's approach to performance cars. They have the talent, the resources, and the heritage to build truly special machines, but they consistently choose the safe, boring option instead. This concept could have been Ford's 911, a sophisticated sports car that combined performance with everyday usability. Instead, it became another missed opportunity in Ford's long history of playing it safe. These 10 cars prove that Ford has always had the vision and capability to build truly extraordinary machines, but they've consistently chosen the safe path over the legendary one. From mid-engine Mustangs to 720 horsepower supercars, these forbidden fruits represent some of the most incredible automotive engineering ever conceived by American hands. The real tragedy isn't just that we never got to buy these cars. It's that we never got to see how they might have changed the entire automotive landscape. Ford had the chance to rewrite history 10 different times. And 10 times, they walked away. But what do you think? Which of these legendary cars do you wish Ford had actually built? Drop your pick in the comments below, and while you're at it, smash that like button if you want to see more videos about the incredible cars that never made it to production. And hey, if you know someone who's as obsessed with automotive what-ifs as we are, share this video with them. They'll thank you for it. Until next time, keep dreaming about the cars that could have been.